Make no mistake, the Oba is quintessentially Yoruba. The Oba is a Yoruba institution, bequeathed to us by our forefathers since time began. The Oba is Yoruba. The Yoruba is Oba. So the two are inseparable. You cannot separate the Oba from the Yoruba or from the Yoruba from the Oba. But the person on the stool, today's Oba is just an occupier. He's just passing through. He's transient. Today's Oba does not own the office. He does not possess the office. The office possesses him. The job of the Oba is a sacred task, and it is to keep alive the Yoruba convention, customs, and traditions. The Oba is also the Yoruba megaphone. I suppose you translate that as Alakoso. The Oba is the Yoruba representative. Ashoju Olon Shojuwa to the world. And the Yoruba Oba is a roadmap to the Yoruba nation. And I think the reason why the Yoruba Oba, they don't do anything at this time is because of their status in Nigeria. They don't seem to know that there's a fundamental difference between political power, which politicians have, and the traditional indigenous power, which they have. Political power derives from political parties. Traditional power that the Obas have derives directly from the people, from the Yoruba people themselves. It doesn't derive from any artificial thing. The power of the Oba originates from the people. In fact, the colonial powers, Britain understood this dichotomy. In 1931, there was a Yoruba Conference of Oba, which was the first time the Yoruba Obas came together, about 50 of them. And between 1931 and 1942, this Conference of Oba met every year. They met with the governor, and they told the governor what they wanted for Yoruba land. In fact, the Conference of Yoruba Oba became the House of Chiefs. What I'm suggesting, or what I'm going to suggest today, is that that conference should be convened again. The Conference of Oba needs to be convened again, this time to declare the emancipation of the Yoruba nation. I am confident that if we have a conference of the Obas that declare emancipation of the Yoruba nation, the Yoruba masses will follow. Even the elites who are, who look this way and that way, they too will follow. And more importantly, I am absolutely confident that the Fulani will not fight as they knew, or they know rather, that it will be a futile fight. So just to assist the Obas, I'm going to look at what the law says about the declaration of emancipation. So I'm going to look at the Nigerian law first. The 1999 Constitution, the infamous 1999 Constitution, actually says or tells us that the sovereignty of Nigeria is not absolute. I will read section 14 to you. This is what section 14 says. The Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be a state based on the principles of democracy and social justice. It is hereby accordingly declared that sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government through this constitution derives all its powers and authority. In other words, the sovereignty resides in the people. And this is what the Arewa governors used in 2000. You know, when they declared Sharia criminal law in the Arewa states, they used this same section 14. This section 14 makes it lawful for the Yoruba Oba to make a declaration of emancipation for the Yoruba nation. It is not illegal. The right to free association, which is what a declaration of emancipation will be, the right to free association is a fundamental right guaranteed by Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution. And I'll read that to you. It says this: every person shall be entitled to assemble freely and associate with other persons, and in particular, he may form or belong to any political party, trade union, or any other association for the protection of his interests. Finally, under Nigeria's law, is the case of, I don't know if people remember, the case of Buhari versus Obasanjo. That case very clearly spelled out the circumstances under which the Nigerian armed forces could be lawfully deployed internally within Nigeria. And this is important because when you talk to people and you say, oh, we could declare emancipation of the Yoruba nation, they say, the president will just send the army. But the president is not able to send the army without the agreement of the National Assembly. And I cannot believe that if we declare Yoruba nation, the National Assembly will then approve for the president to go and start a civil war in Yoruba land. I don't think so. So that's Yoruba law. That's Nigerian law as far as emancipation is concerned. Number one, the Constitution, Section 40 of the Constitution says the sovereignty comes from you. So sovereignty in the Constitution is not absolute. The Constitution also says that Section 40 also says that you are free to associate with anybody you like. And basically to protect your own interests. So if the Declaration of Emancipation, which I believe is in our own interest, it is not against the law of Nigeria for the Obas to declare it. And I also refer to the case of Buhari versus Obasanjo, in which it was brought out that the president cannot simply order the army to come and fight in Yoruba land. He requires the approval of the National Assembly. And it is not likely that the National Assembly will say, okay, go and start a civil war. So it's not going to happen. So from the point of view of Nigeria's law, the Yoruba Oba are entitled to declare emancipation of the Yoruba nation. So what does international law say? This is also important. So it's not just Nigerian law we are looking at now. We're also looking at international law. And the case of Kosovo, which I cite a lot, is the important case to look at. In the Kosovo elite, a group of them, they unilaterally declared independence. And the case came before the International Court of Justice, and the ICJ said that the international law does not prohibit anybody declaring independence. International law does not prevent you from declaring independence. And the ICJ then went into history of the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries. And they said that declaration of independence was something that was not rare at all in the 18th, 19th, and 20th. Very common. And each group or each territory that declared independence was opposed by the state against which such declarations were made. So it is nothing new. If we Yoruba said we want to be independent, it is nothing new for the government of Nigeria to say we don't agree. But the fact of the matter is this, that international law did not prohibit the declaration of independence. And what happened in the second half of the 20th century was the emergence of the law of self-determination, which is a UN law, really, an international law of self-determination, which created the right to independence for all peoples, really, including the Yoruba people. And this has never been opposed by the United Nations Security Council, except in situations where the declaration of independence was accompanied by violence. If you did it without violence, the Security Council is not going to do anything to prevent you from declaring independence. And this was so the declaration of independence by Kosovo did not involve violence. The elites got together, they made a declaration, and that was it. And that's what we expect our Obas to do, the Yoruba Oba to do as well. We don't expect the Oba to be, carrying guns or whatever. But if they declared emancipation of the Yoruba nation today, it will be lawful. It will be lawful. But there's a proviso. The declaration of independence has to be made by non-state actors. That is, it cannot be made by people who are already involved in government. And that's the thing in the Kosovo case, was that the people who declared independence, they were not involved in the constitutional framework of their country. And they made the declaration of independence, I'll read it to you, because no mutually acceptable status was possible. That is, they couldn't find any other way out other than the independence of Kosovo. And they also declared independence because it made the future of the Kosovars very clear. It clarified their future. And that is what the Obas will be doing to us as well. There is no mutually acceptable status in Nigeria at this point in time. And if the Obas declare emancipation, it clarifies our future as Yoruba people. It says to us that our traditional leaders have seen that this is the future for the Yoruba land. So the Oba will not be acting or intending to act as in the capacity of the government. No. They will be acting in their own capacity as the people that our tradition and our culture has selected as our voice. So to summarize, because as we said, we're going to let me speak for a short period so that there's plenty of time for discussion. So to summarize the law, and I know that there are lawyers in the house, to summarize the law, there is no legal impediment whatsoever to a conference of Oba to declare the emancipation of the Yoruba nation. There's no legal impediment whatsoever. Nigeria's 1999 constitution does not prohibit such a declaration. International law does not prohibit such a declaration. All that is required is for